award, but this year we're actually giving out a Lifetime Achievement Award, and we're giving it out to Professor Scher. Professor Scher has been very closely connected with the Global University Alliance on some of the research that's being conducted, some of the education programs, and so on. And we wanted to honor Professor Scher, especially for some of his groundbreaking work on how we have established our thinking in process today, how we all, and the Artist House, he's the founder of the Artist House. Maybe Mark can elaborate a little bit on one of the reasons why the Global University Alliance selected him for that award.
Yes. Thank you very much. And now, I think, and I guess Professor August Wilhelm Scher doesn't really need a lot of introduction. Most of us will already know him, or if not, you will have heard of him. He's the founder of BPM. He's actually the person that, at young, he was convinced that you could connect information to a process. He proved that. He developed a concept to prove the aspects that you can relate data to a process. Now think about it. Process work consists of hundreds of years. I mean, this goes way back. Already Henry Ford worked with process work. This is not a new phenomenon. Already in 1946, the first standards existed around process work. ASME, the American Standard Organization for Engineering, developed a standard how to do process notations. The first process notations. Very few actually already know that. Now here's a person who thought out of the box, not like everybody else. We know all well I can work with a process, I can optimize it, I can do efficiency with it. Now we all know Henry Gantt. He said back then, you must be able to plan with the process. This started on process work. Today we know them as Gantt charts in project management. Henry Gantt, this was around process work. You must be able to plan works with processes and your critical paths. Then we all know that actually when we had the aspects of Toyota visiting and the Japanese principals visiting the Ford manufacturing, out of that came all the aspects of Kaizen and TQM and zero defect. Today what we know as Lean and Six Sigma. Few challenge, however, it's still within the realms of optimization and effectiveness and efficiency. It has nothing to do that it's not great. It is great. We all love it. But then you have a person like Professor August Wilhelm Scher who says there is more to this. You must be able to connect it to information. You must be able to connect it to data. Everybody was saying, what are you talking about? Your process is what you do, your activity. Yes, it creates and uses data. It furthermore has something to do with your business functions. Therefore, your process, if I rechange that, I change parts of my organizational construct. I mean, I know today we know this. Our thinking today has been shaped so much by this man's thoughts. It's very few times that in a lifetime you can actually meet a person who has fundamentally changed the thinking and has changed for all of it. There is not one organization you cannot meet that today does not work with one or the other way with processes, who connects it to data, who connects it to applications, because also that he proved. This was known what is called the Aris House. We most know it by the Aris product, but the Aris House is not only about processes. It's about architecture of integrated information systems. It goes way beyond of what we already thought. Today, Professor Scher has left the ideas Scher. Part was adapted by Software AG, and actually they went from the standard that looked at this to the BPMN 2.0 standard that everybody else does. does not make it bad or good. They live up to the rest of the standards. But that does not change the fact that we believe that Professor Scher has actually added to the community of body of knowledge is so beyond that normally then we give out the prizes, and we thought about it in the Global University Alliance, and the leading practice community said, what do we do? This is beyond innovation. This is beyond aspects of frontier thinking, where we typically would give within the community. So we decided this man will achieve from us a Lifetime Achievement Award, where we literally give him, when Professor Scher will receive the award. Now, Professor Scher wants to come here himself. He, again, actively wants to participate in the community because his non-disclosure agreement, the contract when the Software AG was bought by Ares, there were certain times, you know how it works, where you cannot compete the same way in the industry and other things. So he will actually come back, work of it, so parts of this you will hear next year at the conference. He will actually speak. He wanted to speak this time, but he's a personal saxophonist that he really loves. It's his passion, his personal passion. That he plays with the Vienna Symphony Orchestra, which is a big thing. For those of you who are in Europe, you know that's a really, really big thing. So he said, I just can't. I mean, work, private, so this has to win. This is a one-time opportunity. So anyway, if we can connect to aspects, he has some few words he would like to share with us. We are stopping at the moment. There's something with the sound. If not, we actually go here.
Innovation, yeah.
Yes.
My name is August Wilhelm Scher. I'm here in the 10th floor of the so-called Scher Tower. This building I built for 6 companies I founded and I'm invested in, and I have combined these companies to a so-called innovation network. And we are very close to the university. Out of my window, I have a brilliant overview over the university. So we can collaborate with all the institutes around our work, especially with the computer science departments and other institutes which are very close to information technology or business administration. So far I have introduced myself, but of course first I would like to thank the organizers, especially the Global University Alliance and the leading practice, to honor me with the Lifetime Achievement Award of this year. I'm very proud of this, and I would like to express my deep feelings that I'm really honored by this achievement. Especially I would like to thank Professor Rosing and Henrik van Scheel I phoned with, and I was in the United States when they called me, and it was really a very good talk. Business process management is on the table for no more than 20 years. I developed the Ares concept, I think about 25 years ago, but BPR is still a hot topic: business process re-engineering, business process management, business process optimization. And I think it will be also a very interesting part for research work in the future, but also a big challenge for companies to implement business process management. When I look into the future, then I would say that we have to think about, do we have already the appropriate software architectures for business process management? Because the business software is a machinery for executing business processes, and in many cases these software systems were developed in an old-fashioned way, more function-oriented. They are able to be implemented in a process-oriented way, but therefore, in the first step, you have to describe the business processes, and then in the second step, you have to have the technical knowledge to find out which transactions you need for supporting these different functions within a process and combine them and assemble them in a process-oriented way. I think in the future, the software should be developed already from the beginning in a process-oriented way, so they should be easier to adapt to the specific needs of the users, make the user more flexible in using the software and adapt the software to the single processes they have to execute in this moment. So this is, I think, a big topic for the future, to find out what is the software architecture for supporting business processes. But of course, we have to think about content of processes. What are the optimal processes for a future-oriented industrial company? Here in Germany, we are talking about the 4th generation of industrialization, and we mean with this word that we think that the Internet of Things will revolutionize the industrial companies. The Internet goes into the factories, but will also change the processes in the R&D department, and of course also in the logistics. And so we can go through all the different branches in our different industries to find out what will be their business models in the future. And so when we are talking about BPM, then it is not only a technique-driven subject, we have also to think about what will be the future in our industries, what kind of business models will come up, how innovative can we be when we think about new processes, but not only new processes, also very close to processes are the products, the combination of material products with services, and also, of course, we have to think about new materials which fit to a stronger customization of our products and so forth. So, to summarize this, I think also in the future we have a lot of challenges in research and also in practice as well. What kind of processes we need in our companies, what kind of research we need. And I'm looking forward in collaborating with your institutions, and I'm also looking forward seeing some of you next year at the conference. I try to attend there, and I'm also happy to be able next year to give a speech there. Thank you very much again, and have an interesting time in at your conference.
Thanks a lot.
That's really happy. I truly hope we have the potential for you guys to see him next year. Working with him, it's amazing when you have a person where you literally invented an area. Furthermore, what makes it so amazing is, I mean, you typically would meet such people like Saxo Bank, by the way, which you will also get next year, who work within the Global University Alliance, or Professor Scher. Yes, they are strong people, but obviously they are strong people. Because, I mean, you must have strong meetings when everybody says it will not work. I mean, think of Edison, where he did the light bulbs. I mean, one normal person would think after 2,000 light bulbs that didn't work. It's not going to work. You have to have some kind of mindset and conviction that I believe it will work. I know I'm on the right path. This I really look forward to next year. Anyway, we give over to a really, really exciting speaker, Mikael Munck, who's also the CIO of the Year here in Denmark. I'm honored. He is actually more than CIO, but I believe you will explain this yourself. This is really great. I give over. It's great working with him. And Mikael, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to this. It's my first attendance at a conference within leading practices. We've been working together on quite a few things the last couple of years. Before I get started, yeah, I would like to clarify that right now I actually have a broader responsibility, which also covers our, besides our technology, it's our operations, it's our business development, it's our trading platforms, it is all the way to also the well, it's the whole value chain within the bank, what we define as run and develop the bank. So it's a big area within the organization. That also gives me some authority now to change things in a way that we took from IT, that we harvested from IT across the Saxo Bank organization. So before I get started in too much detail, I just want to share that I have quite a few pictures, not that many, but really from our headquarters in Copenhagen. And as you see from some of these pictures, we believe in design, futuristic design, good design, simple design, and we believe in, as one of the speakers before me said, and I use the same term, we believe in simple solutions to very complex problems. And that's something that really runs through the organization in Saxo Bank. But let me get started. I have to give you just 1 minute or two on Saxo Bank, so you get a view into what it is we do, how we do it, and how we think in the organization. I'll talk a little bit about the situation we had. And when I say the situation we had, I think it's more a permanent state of a situation that we are faced with, and I think that a lot of organizations today are faced with, and that's the ability to constantly optimize the delivery, efficiency, and innovation at the same time. And I think in most companies today, including Saxo Bank, there are certain restrictions around that. One of them is that, well, we're not going to give you a large budget to support this. We might not cut your budget, but we want you to do more. Right? So I think that's we're not the only ones faced with that. We'll talk a little bit about complications, leading question, answer solutions, what we did and how we did apply that, and where we used leading practice and where we did things our own way, so to speak. I have a very detailed example from software test, and Mark was actually right in the beginning. I had actually, sometimes certain things you tend to forget, and I had given Mark a pretty hard task at that point in time, because we had been working together on certain things, and it was hard for me to connect all the dots and this big framework, and we had done things at a higher level. And then I gave Mark the task, okay, if we should continue to talk about these things, apply the framework, you go, and it's correct, in the darkest secret corner of the organization, and you tie my software development into the framework that we had developed ourselves. And you will see the results in just 20 minutes. A little bit about lessons learned, and then conclusions. And then I will take questions just about anything around this subject. I know we have quite a few Danes here today, and if you've been on the internet this morning, you probably would like to ask us, what is this fighter pilot in the Danish army doing, taking a selfie, why he's firing his sight with a missile? But we cannot answer that question. It's out there, and it's going all around this morning. Okay, just a little bit about Saxo Bank and our business model. What we really are is we are sort of a combination of a software company and a bank. We're sort of born with the internet. We're born in the cloud. Our services are in the cloud. We are a relatively small company, 1,400 employees. 600 is within IT. Still, we have 24 offices, global reach to support our business. What we do is we aggregate, so to speak, the total global market cap of all the instruments, or as many instruments as we can get our hands on, into our trading platform. And we do that by connecting to exchanges globally, brokers, and taking liquidity directly from big investment banks. And then via our platform, we sort of distribute that back to our clients. Many of them are private clients using our trading platform, but you will also find quite a few professional banks, even in the US, Citibank is using our white label solution, because a lot of people found that replicating the trading platform, the intelligence that we have in here, the ability to aggregate all these things is quite complex. So we team up with the banks all around the world to be more like a vendor. The uniqueness we have is the range of products, and that is very, very unique. I've been working quite a while with TD Ameritrade also, and the former CEO and CIO in Ameritrade. I have the pleasure of having this guy on my board, and getting a lot of good, very, very usable advice in many areas. One area where we are much different to TD Ameritrade in the US is, again, the range of products. TD Ameritrade, very US-based, very much US-based products, where we cover a global market. And then, as I mentioned, a service platform with everything, including even back office and risk management for both our clients and our white label. Not more about that. A little bit about the situation again. When we started out, I knew that there was one thing I needed to be very, very careful with, and that was I had to nurture the uniqueness that I found in Saxo Bank. I've been in this industry for 25 years. I've been selling software to very large banks all around the world, and I knew that one thing we did very, very well at Saxo Bank was that we had the business and the IT very, very closely working together. And that's how this relatively small company managed still to build world-class products. I also knew that one of the things we had done very well in IT were that we had developed a very, very good, very, very flexible agile development model. And I have this debate with many of my former CIO colleagues about can you really run a development organization that size, totally based on agile principles? And I would say yes, you can. You need a framework around that with some level of structure, but still that is what we do, and I think that's one of the reasons why we are successful. I also knew that IT needed to take the responsibility to implement such a model. And that is, of course, a daring task, because you're pushing a lot of people in the business to move in the direction that you propose. And that's around the time also when we started getting a little involved with leading practice. Actually, the term leading practice, as you see in the upper right corner here, I wasn't familiar with the term really before getting introduced to this matrix, but I found that this really was very, very suitable for the way we were thinking in the organization, and we wanted to be leading. As many of the external stakeholders would come and explain when they look at us, that they would say, your company sort of have this urge to get into the future, and maybe you once in a while are moving a little bit too fast. So we needed a framework where we could both sort of drive that ambition and still be working with the best practices and standard practices as you need in any organization. So the complications, very much as mentioned before, we needed buy-in from stakeholders all around the organization, and we needed also to align what we were doing with the overall strategy of the bank. And again, in a very dynamic environment, the strategy also tends to be a little bit in box sometimes. So we also needed a very dynamic model. We had very little formalized way of working within the organization, which actually was also an opportunity for us to influence this across the organization. And then, as mentioned before, we had certain expectations. Also, we knew that we needed to inject several different vitamins into this organism here to make this work, and we needed to do this at once. So we needed to coordinate and connect these dots. Still, in a young organization, people get used, they have habits, they work in certain ways, and that was a challenge we knew that we needed to address in the wider organization. Within IT, I had already driven a lot of change for 1.5 years, so people were already tired in that part of the organization with change. But they sort of got used to it because they saw that was a constant that they needed to work with. And they said they had an agile mindset and needed to prove that to me and the rest of the organization. So also it was sometimes a hard sell, a hard way to explain that we needed some initiative where we needed to drive more structure. And I don't want to use the word process because that's not a word people like a lot in the organization. I managed to get people to accept the word operational efficiency, but a lot of people found that was really a old-fashioned term and not very sexy term. On the other side, I wanted to push people in being even more leading agile, and I'll talk more about that when we look at the solutions. So the leading question, more or less, was how do I connect the dots driving towards a leading practice framework rather than just trying to control the chaos I had in the organization, balancing out, making things work in daily life, because we had a grand ambition and we wanted to move in a direction that, well, we had some guidance, but we didn't have all the planning done to get there. So already now, 10 minutes into the presentation, I'll give you the answers to what we did.
All right.
And then dig into more details afterwards. What we did, and that was extremely important for us, were that we did a check into the company's DNA. And we found that we could win people's hearts by connecting into the company values we had. For us, company values actually meant something. I know it's not like that in every company, but it meant something for a lot of people within Saxo Bank. So connecting what we did into the 7 company values we had was very, very important. I also found that I'd rather not mess around with the way of thinking in IT, where they have been loyal to the Agile Manifesto for quite a while. So I needed in this area to tie anything I did, not conflicting at least with the Agile Manifesto. And then, very, very importantly, what I did and where I had a lot of help in structuring this from leading practices were to establish some frameworks, some principles, and especially the way of modeling and working. We had a lot of things going on ourselves very, very early on. And the work that we had done, we presented that to the leading practices framework, so to speak, and within very few iterations, there were a ability to put certain words around that we would not, in the same way of framing, have been able to do ourselves. That was very helpful. Having said that, the models were our own. Continuous delivery mindset. Well, we have this ambition, and we really want to be leading. So we looked around what are the leading companies doing today? You would find that most of them in technology were working in a continuous delivery process. And most of them would have been started from greenfield, so pretty much easier to be working that way. We found that we were not a greenfield operation anymore. We had 12, 14 years on our back in terms of technology. So it really was as said, daunting task for a lot of people just to buy into that, because they were thinking about, okay, Mikael, so now we made it, we are releasing now on a bi-monthly basis. We want us to do it on a daily basis. What is the purpose of this? Business cannot absorb what we're doing anyway, so why are we doing this? So that was very much about a mindset change in why we're doing this and why we constantly need to think about improvements and the iterations that we have with business. And that took some time to get there, and one very good advice on that is start out with a project, find a greenfield project within the organization, run that as a continuous delivery project. We did that, huge project, 50, 60 developers, 20 people on the business side, hired some very, very good people from the technology industry who've been successful with this before, proved that case, and then started getting deeper and deeper into our technology stack. We also found that what some of the clever companies were doing out there were working from a minimum viable product framework for some pretty good reasons, because the market dynamics really foster a way to get commitment from your clients, get verification from your clients much faster. And if you don't get that, well, then get away, abandon what you're doing, and turn your investment in another direction. So the ambition we were given there was that no deliveries, no projects could be any longer than 3 months. And then again, you got people all confused, right? Because does that mean that we did not run 1.5 year, 2 years strategic projects? Yes, we did when we were launching new exchange-traded options. Well, that takes 1.5, 2 years to develop such a product, but you still need to chunk this up, get it into 3 months deliveries. And that's the last part we are delivering on, and that will be done by the end of this quarter, actually. There's no project, there's no, you might have a framework where we look, but everyone in the organization is working on maximum 3 months delivery cycles. So that's what we did, and a little bit on what we think we just defined this a couple of weeks ago. We believe that we found a model that for ourselves is more agile on the enterprise level, because it's so easy to be that in a sub-component, in a sub-team, or even within a IT organization, but having the ability to execute that way on an enterprise level is really potentially a game changer in how you get the most out of your resources. So let me dig into some of the fundamentals around this. The first step was that we developed a product delivery model. That's just the term we use for this, but that's a model for how to get products to the market from the very first idea. And we had to work with some core principles, and one of them was that this product delivery model were there to capture and qualify ideas for the bank, execute ideas efficiently across the whole value chain, and then very, very importantly, do not interfere with the running business, because that was again one of these mental hindrances we had all around the organization, because everyone had daytime jobs, so how can you put me out and do that and that? So we simply needed a definition around this, and we used a definition used very much in the banking industry, and we differentiated between running the bank, and we defined 3 things that encompasses that. And then we defined what is developing the value. And that's capturing the ideas, qualifying the ideas, executing across the value chain, and then hand over back to the run the bank organization. So we also found that, and I know every organization has this, the key roles in place, but we did not have them fully in place when we started looking at these. We found that there was something missing. And in our organization, what we found missing were a little bit further down. We had the executive management sponsor. We had the business owners, but we also found that quite a few of the business owners were not really secure in the role as business owners. So some of them were great, and you really need your business owner to be very active if you want to run a efficient, agile development shop. Some of them were great, some were not great. So we took the sort of responsibility to educate all the business owners in what we expected from them and what they could expect from us. So we set the expectations. And after the first round, that actually went quite smooth and were appreciated across the organization. We had also had historically a challenge in the IT organization. And the challenge was that the IT project manager would end up doing much more than just managing the IT project. Actually, the guy would be managing just about everything around the project. And since it was the only person around in the project team with some structure and some, let's say, focus on really achieving the deadlines and taking the responsibility in the project, we found that it was a very efficient way that they would think about line connections and stuff that were not really in executing the project. So we found that from the Scrum world, you have this Scrum Master. And what the Scrum Master does is to remove these impediments for the team. And we found if we define a role where we have another manager, delivery manager, that actually removes all these impediments for the IT project manager to do his outmost and best to execute his project, that would be very, very helpful. And further than that, we found that this person actually could be on the business side, aligning the business side, preparing the business side for the launch of anything that would come out of the project organization. And again, that was very, very important because numerous times we had products delivered to the business, but the business were not really ready to hand this over, didn't really get this distributed globally, didn't really get all the way to our white labels because something had been missing in the chain. So for us, that was a very, very important role. And then we defined the way we work with stakeholders. So the operating model around our new design here were based on I would say, very simple way of working, which we have defined the Saxo way of working. And as you can see here, the blue illustrates the business and business involvement, and the orange is the IT involvement. You see the phases from idea, business case, startup, deliveries, benefits, hypercare. I guess most organizations or every organization have a model that is somehow similar to this. What we're a little bit special about this model is that in the middle section, that's where we were extremely agile. That's where we had our agile way of working. And on the outside, that was where we had a bit more process to support a efficient way of executing in the middle. What was also a little bit different in this model were that we defined this very, very clearly as not just a collaboration model, but this was very, very much a service model from IT to business. Right? So this is how we could service our business stakeholders in the most efficient way. It was also very important for us to tie this model back to 7 principles. We had 7 values in the company, and we tied what we did here very, very closely to company DNA. One of the things that we really are using a lot in the organization is rationality. So rationality was one of these 7 underlying principles. We were also pretty conscious at this stage already that this model it's not a unique model, but the way we have designed this model would only work for us because it was so closely interlinked with the way that our organization works. So we always been very strong believers when we work with consultants, when we work with people from the outside. We go out, we engage with the best, we hire a couple of consultants, we hire people, directly put them on our payroll, but we never go out and buy a huge consultant assignment from anywhere. This needs to grow within our own organization. We need to own this ourselves. I think in our culture at Forster Fund, we also have developed our own software. It is our own system, and we know we can do that well if we have control over this ourselves. Also, it's important to mention that, especially the middle part, the project execution part, will tie directly up to how we executed projects within the IT organization. So somehow now we just needed to get the rest of these people in the organization across the value chain engaged with this. And what we did was that we came up with a framework whereby we define how a new idea sort of filters into our organization. And again, the blue examples the business side, and the orange is more on the IT side. So we define some relationships within the organization. One relationship were between the product management, product managers, the business analysts, and how they together worked on value on each their side of this project. We also illustrated how the different areas of our business organization would contribute to the different projects we were running in the organization. And we aligned also on the IT side the different functions we had. What would, when would they impact, when would they be involved, what would we expect from them in this model. We defined a term, I know a lot of people is using similar terms. We had a value case. We did not want to spend time on building a business case to begin with, because if the value case couldn't prove itself on our governance body around our investment, which is called Project Board in our organization, then it would not be worth spending more time on that. Again, we thought about the value components of the projects. And just a little side remark here, I was so happy today to see that I'm not the only one using very complex slides. Because normally when I show this, people start to faint and say, "My, this is going wrong." But I'm not the only one in this. So what we did was we defined a organization on the business side with PAs, with business owners, and with this new function I mentioned before, the product delivery manager. And we tied that up with a part of the IT organization where we work with the more strategic projects, but we did not really start to do any programming, no development work. We were still flying at a relatively high level in the IT organization. The illustration here is also that the product delivery manager and the IT project manager worked very, very closely together throughout the project. What we then did were a tick list on the business case, we wanted people on the business side, everyone involved, all departments, to sign off that they could deliver the resources needed to this, that they agreed on their part of the project. And until that happened, nothing would go down and start coding production in IT. But once that happened, project were given to the IT project manager, and off you go. So on the one side, still underneath, you start the development, you have the iterations, you have your agile Scrum development model. On the top side, on the business side, the delivery manager would be working with marketing, with global officers, with sales, and all that to ensure that the rollout plan and everything were done. So towards the end, the two tracks filtered into one track again. The project as such were handed over both to business and to run the bank in IT operations, our more traditional part of IT. We would run and maintain this. And then we would start to look at the value realization. Had we achieved the things we set out for? And we would then start to think about, well, maybe we did not get everything we wanted because we were under time pressure, as in any organization, so there might have been a few shortcuts. And then we would think about then, okay, then we have to go back once again. We have to think about how to enhance this project, this product. And the further we went back, well, the bigger the impact, the more we needed to invest in this. And that proved to be very helpful to start thinking with that mindset also when we came later on to our minimum viable product way of thinking, because that's again, you can do this iteration very short and all the way down to 3 months, and then at least you have a framework here to start out with. So one of my points here is that when we set out for this, when we developed this model, we were not thinking about minimum viable products, but we found that just establishing these frameworks around how we work would help us later on in the process. Also, this defined very well the IT project excellence, how it fitted into the IT strategy, and all these nice themes, strategic business objectives, critical success factors, and actually we worked on 3 of these very intensively and very early on. One of them, the One IT, was a very challenging one for me because I had, to begin with, some challenges by having these very visionary, very fast-moving software developers, and I would have the guys looking after the servers and the data centers, and there was a big disconnect on how people worked and how they thought and everything. But we sort of changed that within 1.5 years, and we got people at a better level, so to speak, and they started cooperating a lot better together. But still I found it had only moved the tension to another place in the organization, and that was very much between the guys again, then developing the software, and then the guys also within software just taking responsibility to deploy this, get this out to live, checking that quality and everything was okay. So that was where the continuous delivery thinking started, because removing that hindering we could only do by giving people responsibility for it. So also, of course, we tried to tie this all the way up to Saxo Bank's strategy. Are we there yet? We're on our way, and we are taking the steps in between as good as we can, but there's not a clear red thread to all of these things, but we are moving in the direction, and then we're not out of sync with anything, but it could be cleaner than what it is today. As touched upon on the slide before, the value flow were very important for us, and that's really where we could use the practice framework. because we were doing these things that were within the framework, but we didn't really have a model to illustrate this the right way. Now, with this model in place, it helped a lot of friction or potential friction within the organization. Yes, and with this in place, it gives us a fantastic opportunity to challenge, especially the bottlenecks in the model, because it's quite clear for every project now where we have shortage, where the projects are sort of stacking up, what resources we need. Is it business analyst? Is it the business side? Is it because the business management is not involved enough, and so on and so forth. And now, with my new responsibility, I can already see I've only been in this position for 4 months. But it's so much easier for me to shift people around within this value chain and put them in a place where it makes more sense, because there's no department boundaries, and people are buying into this now. So I'm pretty sure that having this in one organization also will really impact the way we do this. This is very difficult to see. It's very difficult to see. But this is just to illustrate again the different views in this model. I'll do this very quickly. This is the first view, is the executive management group's view. And what you see in the blue is develop the bank, and the orange in this instance is the wonder bank. We broke that down in the product delivery model in some different phases, and we broke that down also in a as I said, project and then maintenance. We broke it further down and said, in the project model that goes underneath this, what are the different phases? And these definitions, again, prove to be very, very important for us going forward, internally in the organization and working with model in general. This framework is just to illustrate what I did before also, that when you make change further, you go down this route, the bigger the impact, the more you need to invest in change you are making. This was also a way to explain what we did at the high level, how we did it, and why we did it back to the higher levels in the organization. And now back to this very precise example of software testing, where I challenged leading practice with this dark hole in part of the organization, and how that should tie into the rest of the framework. And I would say that went quite well. And what we used here were the same phases, the same way of organizing our task that we already had in our project model. And then we started defining different layers of that, what we did in analyzing who were involved, what were the value gates, and we would do an audit to check out that these things were actually achieved. So very at a very high level, we defined the roles, who contributed what, who were the main driver. In each of these areas, we defined a quality gate where we did an audit of the value. Have we achieved the desired value of what we set out for? And then when I first time we showed this one, I was about to faint. I was like, this is too much. But I survived, and there actually was some meaning to this, and it was sort of a way of mapping out how important and how involved the different roles were in the different phases. And it actually were quite a neat way to not have too many discussions about who did what, and people could disagree with this. And then we just needed to change the relative weight of the different roles in the different phases. And what was really nice again, then we could reuse our value framework in this model also. So we could take that, put it on top of this testing model, and say, well, in these phases, this is how you contribute to value, and these are the stakeholders at the other side. But this is where we are now, and we have enough to work with just to implement this in test. So I don't dare to put any leading practice do's on the other road within the organization anytime soon. But once we recover after this first shock, then we might do something similar. But again, in our organization, it is also constantly a balance between having too much of this modeling, and then keeping this very, very agile mindset. But I found that we run a big risk by not having something to look at, some level of structure around what we do with our agile mindset. We end up like the old waterfall development methods ended up with big mainframes and stuff like that. But I will end up with an arsenal of agile things moving around all over the place, and I don't want that. So I need something to balance that. And then again, this flow back when we do changes. So this were for us the exercise very much about connecting the dots. And I will also say that, again, when we set out for this, we did not have we knew that we had this urge to get into the future. We knew that we wanted to be best in class, leading in class when it comes to delivery models. But we did not have the full plan scoped out. We have that now. And I for the moment, I don't see us as doing much more on this. So we believe we have a very good product delivery model now, where we have a feature-driven approach, and each of these features are no longer, as I said, maximum 3 months from inception and to they go out. It's quite funny when you talk to people about such a cycle, and people say, well, we have yearly cycles or semi-annual cycles or 3-month cycles. But then you ask them, what is in your cycle? And then they say, well, it's analyzing, it's development, but not deployment. Because if you put deployment in there, then it's going to go haywire. Then it's going to be double up. So that was very, very important for us also to work on this thing underneath here, the continuous delivery framework. So we do have the ability to go the last mile very, very fast. And we can go the last mile much faster than we actually need to. But it's a very healthy exercise for us. Minimum viable product, that's new to us. That's something we need to be working very, very closely with our business on, because I sense that we have moved maybe a little bit too fast on the development side, because now the business also needs to connect to get the input from the market, from our clients. But we'll get there very, very fast. We have some electronic forums, and it's very quick. We can get immediate feedback on what we're doing. But some of these services we're delivering, we need a way now to organize the input from our external stakeholders. Conclusions, very fast. I believe transformation, as said a couple of times during this presentation, needs to happen within the organization. I've been a very strong believer in that. I also believe, at least for us, we could not have moved anywhere without appreciating that there is a strong company DNA. Try to mess with that, then we're set up for failure. Frameworks and principles. I know a lot of organizations are a lot more mature than we are in our work in this area. We needed that, and we needed something to lean towards. Thinking business models, I think that came very natural to us as IT and the business, I said before, always have been very, very closely interconnected. Value chain thinking is a key parameter for everyone involved in thinking around these models. And then this better before cheaper, that's again about the urge to be leading, the urge to invest, to innovate, take some chances. We've been able to take a lot of more chances now with the minimum viable product, and we think that's fantastic. Revenue before cost, and then apply reference content. And then not least, and I know this is common sense, but you need those pilot projects. You need to prove this, and you need to take it in steps. Otherwise, there will be too much resistance, and people will point at you and then say you're doing, well, that's what you think, but you are not true with it. Good, and then not least, keep your ears open. This is a example of innovation that didn't went wrong, but it was sort of made. Well, we didn't really need it in the end. This is about just before Second World War in Europe, and just before the radar were invented in Europe. You would see these prototypes, so people could listen to the planes that would come in. Yeah, you see them in portable, these personalized versions. But listen, and I think that's one thing we've done a lot to get input from anyone. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to conclude before I come with some practical stuff. So when you heard the presentation from Mikael, it's also that what are some of the key things, although you're not in banking, that you can actually learn from that? I mean, like, Saxo Bank is a very agile, very fast-moving, and they are within the Fortune 500. They're very much focused on profit and execution. He's a brilliant mind in itself. So one of the things that he has been doing is that he's focused on what is the reference content I can use where I want to stand. I don't have to reinvent all the things, but I apply reference content. I apply reference content. I even go for my business model of IT, how I execute my business model of IT, or even if I open the one thing I necessarily don't want to open, which is the software testing element, and then reinventing the software testing model and how that works functionally and practically. And that is something that you do by using reference content. And that is something that leading practice is mainly all about. I'm not here to sell you anything because I have nothing to sell you. But what I have to tell you is that Mikael came with an excellent example on how you can use reference content. Now, we have a short, the network break will actually be extremely short network break. I think that would be a great way you actually take your coffee, take